Hi, guys, and welcome to Keep Hope Alive podcast. We have a great show for you today. We have Mike Vera with us today, and he's a board certified health coach and a personal trainer. I was reading on you. So we'll be diving in about what he does and everything. So, welcome for coming on to Keep Hope Alive. So,
Thanks. Thank you.
really quick, I got this random question for you. Out of the past 15 years, how many weddings have you been to?
Probably 6 or 7.
Oh, that's good. Are you actually a vendor and performing at them or just a
No,
guest?
I'm just well connected. I know a lot of people getting married, so yeah,
Hey,
seasoned at
that's
weddings.
good. That's good. Okay. Well, usually with weddings, when the guests go in to the ceremony part, whether it's outdoors, indoors, they still have this. What is that thing they have to sign?
What do I sign in the guest book?
Guest book. Good, good, good. Okay, well, one of our big sponsors here is lifeonrecord.com. And what they do, instead of having a guest book, they have a vintage rotary phone that they bring for the guests to pick up and say, congratulations. Or maybe the groomsman is like, dude, it's about time you put a ring on her finger. But I call it the gift of voice. I love hearing my friends and family voices. So, right next to that phone, they will have a QR code for your guests to pull out their mobile phone, scan it, so that they can leave the message either before or after the wedding. Now, once all these messages get collected, they can burn it on a 12-inch vinyl record, or they have a keepsake. I call it the boombox, but it's a speaker. So with that, it's just amazing. You can have either one. Their plans only start at $99. You get the phone number. I wish they would provide the phone, but no, you get the phone number for 1 year. So I think that's pretty cool. I mean, you can even tell your friends and family like 2 months prior, hey, call back and wish us a happy anniversary. And
Hmm.
then they'll add those too. So, but other than that, for more information on them, please visit www.lifeonrecord.com. So, Mike Vera, who are you?
Oh wow, what a there's so many ways that question could be answered. I guess the standard would be that I'm a board certified health coach and I'm on a mission to make the world a healthier, more awake place.
That is amazing. I think that's what the world needs right now. So I guess, explain all that it covers. So,
As a board certified health coach, I work with groups and individuals to help change behavior. And I say that because, it's health coaching, a lot of people still don't know what it is the same way. If I said I'm a dentist, everybody knows what a dentist does. If I say I'm a personal trainer, everybody knows what a personal trainer does. But health coaching is kind of up in the air as far as understanding it on a wide scale goes. And I like to think of it as collaborative critical thinking because it is really people talking to each other. Most people know what they should do for their health, right? Nobody's going to be surprised hearing like you should move around a little more or you should eat less junk food. Every single person on the planet knows that. It's just a matter of how do I approach this? How do I make this stick? How do I remove my obstacles? And all the answers to those questions involve critical thinking. And sometimes as individuals, it can be tough to do that on our own, which is where the
yeah,
collaborative critical thinking comes in.
that is really good. We can use me as an example. Like, I got diagnosed with neuralgia paresthesia in my leg and I can't feel it. But if I think more positive each day, they had to put a stimulator on my back. But if it's going to work, it's going to work. It's just in our brain, right? I'm here tapping, a tapping method. So, but is that kind of like how, I guess for me, it's like, oh, it's not going to work today. And that's negative thinking, you know? But there's times I'm positive that I think, yes, it's going to work today. And, but in the evening, I won't feel my leg again. And it's like, how, just me as an example, for people here, do you teach people how to get out of that or?
It is very goal oriented. So I tend to meet people every 2 weeks, and I don't really assign any particular technique or practice. So, I mean, if you have tapping and that's your go to and you want to integrate that into your lifestyle, I work with people to do that. And everybody really is very different, especially because I work with so many different kinds of people. I work with people who have chronic conditions. I work with people who just want to run marathons or put on muscle. And so that means it's a unique approach for everybody. And basically, the starting point would be, what is your vision? We're going to work together for X amount of time, like 6 months or so. Where are you trying to get to versus where you're at now? And so that really gives us a compass, a guiding orientation. And having that orientation allows us to set appropriate goals along the way. And that could really include anything. It could include food, sleep, moving around more, or finding relaxing techniques and stress management, things like that.
That's good. That's good. So coming to you to get that help, that's going to be very good, because I mean, I look at my doctors, they're always telling me, hey, they don't talk about getting a health coach. I think they should, because it's like, here's a new medicine, try this and see if this works. And I feel like I'm more of an advocate now, going, hey, besides this medicine, like what vitamin equals this medicine? And I remember seeing my doctor drop his head and he's like, magnesium. At least he told me the truth, If it's coming in the form of a vitamin, I'd rather be going to GNC, buying the vitamins to help myself. So that's kind of like a first step for me, is really learning this healthcare system and what's good and bad for us. And other podcasts I did is learning who we are. And if we take our health and kind of look at it and manage it and kind of think, okay, these are the steps I want to take to get better. What can I do? And they follow that. That would help too, right?
Yeah, definitely. And you bring up a really good point, because the current medical model is so broken, and healthcare, people understand this. People who are outside of healthcare, who are the patients, and really a lot of the people within healthcare get this. I work and talk to a lot of doctors, a lot of nurses, a lot of health coaches, and all of them, health coaching really emerged out of a necessity to fill in some gaps from the broken medical model. You have doctors who very often barely even look at the patients, and if they do, it's between glances at the computer to look up certain codes and what medication goes with what condition. Don't get me wrong, I love doctors. I work with them every day. And I think all of them are very well intentioned, right? These are people who got into an industry to help people. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of them are at the mercy of a broken system. And so I'm really proud to be a health coach, to try to fill in those gaps. And you're lucky you got a response out of that doctor saying magnesium, because a lot of them won't say it if they know it. Some of them don't
Yeah.
know it at all, and they only know how to prescribe medications. So it's kind of a mess out there. But, in the interest of
It
hope,
is.
I know that's a theme of your show. I am optimistic
Yeah.
that health coaching will grow, or even beyond health coaching, that these gaps in the healthcare system will be filled in for the better.
You see, yeah, and I wish you help people after ER visits, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I've been in it and out and feels like nobody knows what to do with me. I have another diagnosis that they're saying there's no code for me. People will laugh and people will just, I feel so gaslighted. So this whole, system, and not only, I agree. The doctors are there to do their job and everything. And granted, I just sometimes it's just taking that step forward. I try not to look at Google as much and go, oh, I have this symptom. But sometimes I make jokes. I go, they'll come in and be like, hey, give me a minute, walk out. And I picture them going, Alexa, she has this and this. What do I give her? So it's just one of those things. But like, even after hospital visits, if you had a diagnosis of a stroke or something, and then they're going, oh, no, you didn't. We don't know what you have. And then you're sent on your way. It's like, okay, well, what is it? And it goes the same for doctors and insurance companies. And if you're on an HMO, this is my biggest thing. I have to be at three different specialists. Is the insurance saying that they need critical information? And then they'll go and say, well, your doctor did not turn all this stuff in. So we sit here going, okay, well, what is it? What do I do? Why do I have to be the one to do all the legwork? And while, appointments could be 3 months later out, so there has to be like a big demand for health coaches that, like, hey, stay still. You can get through this.
Yeah, for sure. The health coaching demand is growing, awareness is growing, and funny enough, there's going to be a wrench thrown in the whole thing with AI really exploding in its
Yeah.
use. And I know a lot of health coaches are now, I mean, I've been talking about this for years and nobody paid attention to it, but now the health coaches are really paying attention to AI. The doctors are paying attention to AI. And quite frankly, there is a lot to be optimistic about with AI. So on one hand, yeah, there are some concerns like AI, who's controlling it, right? Is this a propagandized machine that's going to nudge people in a wrong direction in the interests of corporations? That's a serious concern. But
Yep.
on the other hand, AI really has the potential to do a lot of good, especially in the context of healthcare. This is a hyper efficient machine that could potentially reduce errors in thinking. One of the top leading causes of death in the United States is medical error. That is human doctors making errors that lead to deaths. That is a serious thing. And so
Yeah.
artificial intelligence has the possibility to reduce some of those error-based deaths. It could move a lot quicker. It could see solutions that human doctors maybe don't see. I think when you think about hope, there is a lot to be hopeful for the future of healthcare. Not to suggest that AI, we want to somehow eliminate humanity from healthcare and just everything is run by robots. That doesn't sound too great, but I think it will
Yeah.
give us a unique window of opportunity to really implement humanity where it really should be. I think it'll give health coaches the opportunity to work with more people, and AI is running a big part of the show, as weird as that sounds.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I'm a marketing director, but looking before the new year, I was like, wow, what I see is AI is coming into play, but also podcasts are going to be very, very big this year. And I was looking at another company's website and they had a link for podcasts, but I remember clicking on it and it was like this long of people that they interviewed for. And I was like, that makes me want to hire them even more, like seeing that. But I think people are still learning, like, why do I have to do a podcast? I had an older guy go, I go, well, I have a podcast. No, you mean a vlog. I go, no, it's a podcast. I'm actually on doing this. But he was so sold. It's a blog, a vlog, something else. But,
Mhm.
seeing how the world is going to change. And I think there was advertisements and they do contact me. And I find it interesting. I think the company is forward for medical, like you go in and you just scan yourself. And I was like, are we starting to become the Jetsons? It feels like it. We just need flying cars now.
Yeah, and maybe that's not too far away. Elon Musk seems to be really on it with all the tech he's developing.
I know, I know. He's getting a bad rap. I saw him on the news, but he's staying focused and mind forward. That's what I like. He's looking at the world as a whole. and what good we can get out of it. So, but definitely. So I know you also have a podcast. Tell us about your podcast.
Sure. Yeah. Healthy and Awake podcast is a big part of my mission to make the world a healthier, more awake place. And I started it for so many reasons. I feel like there's a lot to be talked about that on certain social media platforms can't be talked about. And I'll be very careful with my words here. But we've faced a pandemic for the past few years. We were sold one story, and anybody who asked questions about it was shunned, marginalized, or censored. And
Gotcha.
I'm a skeptic. If somebody's telling me to look away, I'm going to look even closer, just out of spite
Yeah.
and out of a reasonable suspicion. Skepticism is healthy, because a big part of us engaging in healthy behaviors is the decisions that we make. And so if we have no skepticism at all, well, we could be making unhealthy decisions. We should be skeptical. We should question marketing narratives put in front of us. We should, that's how a lot of people end up eating unhealthy food. Is they're sold this idea that this unhealthy food is actually more unhealthy. These are all arguments that we make decisions around. And so
Yeah.
skepticism could really save your health. It could save your life. Skepticism is healthy. And for the past few years, it felt like skepticism was not allowed. And I'm a skeptical
Mhm.
person. So that's really a big driving force behind the show. And so we do take a very different angle on health and wellness compared to other health coaches and other health professionals.
That's cool. I really want to listen to your show.
Thank you.
So, I mean, diving into those and explaining it in a different outcome is really good. So, I'm
I,
proud.
I
Like,
I just spoke with Dr. Peter McCullough yesterday, who maybe you're familiar with, but he was on the Joe Rogan podcast. He has almost 1 million Twitter followers. He is a world-renowned cardiologist. So people are really seeing what we're accomplishing on the show. It's reaching a lot of people, and quite frankly, it's waking a lot of people up too, which is a
I
big
love that.
part of what it's about.
Yeah. So, I have like three doctors coming on by March, and I'm excited to talk to them because, with hope and keeping it, I gotta say it, we're keeping it real, let's be honest here, and if we have information on a certain topic or health condition or what, tell us your story. That's how I
Yeah.
look at it, because everybody's going to go through a different journey of going through that. One of my friends and sponsors, she has gone through cancer and she's a warrior. She's a fighter, but she brings awareness to it also. And I love that she is painting and putting her work out there, and she's still staying active in her profession, which is amazing. So, inspiration is the word. I look at her, I'm inspired. Any doctor can say, you have this and this and this, you know, we don't right now know what to do with you. Let's move on or just forget about it. But if we're strong in that aspect, get our stuff done. Chronic illness is invisible to a lot of people. So, a
Yeah.
lot of people you meet, I would love to hear a topic on that from you. But
Yeah.
seeing, it's just like I'm at a stage 10, but I'm smiling and talking and doing a podcast. But it's weird. Like, if I am really bad in pain and have a kidney stone coming through, I may not be crying. But I'm going to the hospital because I need help. But they're like, you're not crying. You don't need anything. It's like, no, I really do. I need your help.
Yeah.
So it's just hidden, and people tend not to know that and they're chronic pain warriors and stuff. So,
I
yeah, but
couldn't agree more. And actually, to me, the first thing that comes to mind is compassion, because
yeah,
one of the populations I work with a lot is people who have rheumatoid arthritis.
yeah,
And with RA, it is one of those invisible monsters. It is a chronic condition that if you're looking at someone, you wouldn't know, hey, they must have RA. It is something that causes chronic pain, chronic fatigue. It can slow people down, we can facilitate anxiety and depression because of the chronic condition. It's tough.
Yeah.
And a lot of people who have never heard of this condition or have never experienced this type of thing, the word technically is naive. And I don't mean that as an insult. I just mean technically you're unaware of this aspect of life. And there are many people who struggle with this sort of thing. And that's why I think compassion is so important. And I'm very grateful as a health coach. It's given me the opportunity to practice more compassion. And when you look at the landscape of the world today, especially with the internet, it's so easy to be discompassionate. We are interacting with people online. Maybe we don't know who they are. We don't know their name. Maybe they don't even have a profile picture. We can't see their face. And it's like we're just throwing words into the abyss. We would say things that we would never say to a person if we were face to face. Usually, if we're face to face, we try to give people the benefit of the doubt. And there's something about the internet that kind of causes us to see the worst in people or to try to interpret things in the worst way possible. And so I think whether somebody might have a chronic condition or whether we're talking online, I really think compassion is so important. And I'll tell you what, 5, 10 years ago, it feels weird for me to even talk about compassion because I'm not the most compassionate person by nature. I'll admit it does.
Hmm.
It's something that takes effort. It has taken effort for me in the beginning. Now it's kind of default, but I think part of that is just because it's not really facilitated in the culture. I mean, the culture doesn't. We don't talk about compassion very much. So
Yeah.
uh, I'll stop there. But I think the big takeaway is compassion is definitely important for a healthy society.
Thank you. But it may, you know what that leads me to is people get depressed, with their illnesses, and that becomes sometimes mental illness, and if they try to explain it to a family member and family member is like, okay, we're getting blown off.
Mhm.
So compassion and the word empathy are so important together. Like, I'm not telling people for the fun of it. I'm actually could be really scared of what's going on. And if they don't understand, and I have an episode, what are they going to do? So being able to talk to people about what you have, but being that person, show the empathy that you are listening and you do understand it. I've always hoped, my family would look into things as I'm going through it to be a support system. But also hearing people talk about this and go, nobody believes in me. I'm so frustrated. I don't know what to do. It led me to depression, and the doctors want to throw A, B, C medications, but it's making me feel worse. I'm gaining weight. Help,
Yeah,
help. There's that big cry. So, yeah, definitely. Compassion is
yeah,
very important.
yeah.
And then,
And thank you for sharing your frustrations because I you're not alone. I've heard similar stories before. A lot of people feel frustrated and not understood and not seen. And one of the most powerful experiences for me as a health coach is, you know, giving people the chance to be heard and be seen when they might not have it otherwise, when they might not even have it with their doctor or their own family. It really gives me the chills just thinking about it.
yeah. So
And
that's
being
my
able,
segment here is be heard. Like,
yeah,
this is your time to shine. And maybe doctors will listen to podcasts and be like taking their notes. Oh, well, you know what? I should go more descriptive into actually what they have, you know?
yeah. Well, I think people should have hope because the doctors, like I said, I talked to a lot of doctors and a lot of them, even the nurses are leaving the field or like to pursue things like health coaching, or they're adding health coaching on the board certified health coaching credential, adding it on to their RN or adding it on to their MD because they recognize, these people who I said they genuinely want to help. They genuinely want to make the world a healthier place. The ones who do get it are making these sorts of steps, or maybe they're hiring health coaches, or maybe they're changing their practice in a way to be able to accommodate the people who have these needs that aren't being addressed in the regular healthcare system. So there is reason for hope. I think, systems can be slow to change, unfortunately, but a lot of us health coaches are on a mission to try to prevent things from being slow. And especially myself, my business, my platform, we are on a mission to do this really as quickly as we can. I mean, this is all I think about from morning to night. This is all I do.
Yeah, definitely. I see that definitely. And I just see I'm happy with my podcast because the people that are coming through want to be heard also. And they're finding that as hopeful, hopefulness, being able to share their story. And, you know, sometimes it's hard to tell your story, and sometimes it's easy to tell your story, but there's going to be somebody out there that can relate to the story. So, yeah, definitely. Now, you also mentioned another topic with this, and that was communication. So have at it. I'm gonna let you talk
Yeah.
about
Okay.
communication.
Sure. Well, one thing that happens, and I think we've all experienced this, we've all probably done this, is very often we're not actually listening. Sometimes I'll put this on myself. I might be listening to someone, but really I'm just waiting for them to stop talking so I can say what I want to say. We've
Yeah.
all been guilty of that, and that's not
Yeah.
really communication. That's just throwing words at somebody. So one thing that we do as health coaches is called reflective listening, and it feels kind of weird at first, but it's very powerful. And well, so reflective listening. Let's say you express something to me. I'm having this frustration with my health goal. I've wanted to change my diet, and I haven't been able to. So reflective listening, I'll say, well, okay, so what I'm hearing is that you've had this goal around changing your diet and things just haven't been going according to plan. So I'm kind of rehashing your words and throwing them back at you to not only show that I'm actually listening, that I wasn't just waiting for you to shut up so I can say what I want to say, but I'm reflecting your exact words, which shows that I'm listening. But even further, it gives you the chance to hear your words. And I'll tell you what, it's so powerful sometimes when I reflect somebody's words back to them and you can see their eyes widen and maybe they have a eureka moment. And I don't remember the exact way the conversations go with this sort of thing, but sometimes I'll reflect somebody's words back and they'll be like, oh, I think I've been the one holding me back this whole time. Oh, when
Wow.
when when you
Yeah.
put it that way, I realize like I'm the big obstacle here. It's usually in a context of somebody's like, oh, why didn't you finish your goal? That's fine. You didn't finish your goal that you set for yourself. No big deal. These things happen. But what do you think happened there? What kind of got in the way? Oh, it was my husband did this, and you know what? My work schedule that I have, it's the same every week, but my work schedule got in the way, and all these different things. And I'll say, wow, it sounds like there's a lot of excuses, and yet we addressed this last time. And that's when, there's more intricacies to it than that. I'm trying to give you the bullet points here, but they'll have a
Yes.
powerful realization moment. So my point is that with communication, reflective listening can be very powerful. Just try to give people the benefit of the doubt. And I mean,
Yeah.
if I may, I have one more example that can be very powerful.
Yeah.
When you think of cognitive psychology, just the way we make decisions, we take certain shortcuts in the brain. And one of those shortcuts is called in group, out group bias. There are certain factors when you look at somebody that can influence whether they feel like they're part of your team or they're part of the out group. They're not on your team. This is very fundamental. It's actually a survival mechanism. So when we're cavemen, we want to know, are they in the tribe or are they not in the tribe? So this really fundamentally drives us. You see it more modern in sports, right? Look, I'm from Philly and if I wear a Cowboys jersey in Philly, I'm the out group. I'm the enemy. People are not going to be nice to me. They don't know anything about my character, but they're going to make these assumptions about me, put me in the out group, and they're going to treat me like the enemy. So my
Oh, wait,
point,
wait. I gotta tell you something really quick.
okay,
I'm from Jersey. I'm an Eagles fan.
yeah.
I live in Texas.
So
So
maybe
right
you've
on.
experienced some of this.
Yes.
Yeah. So my point here is that this happens beyond sports. This happens in politics and religion. And I like this musician, like Taylor Swift. You see basically cults happening with Taylor Swift. there is a human tendency to put ourselves in boxes and to put other people in boxes, whether or not those boxes are justified. And that can
Yeah.
inhibit communication. If I've automatically classified you as the outgroup, well, that's going to affect the way that I communicate with you. So I think the big takeaway with this is that we should try to give people the benefit of the doubt. We should try to resist that tendency to put somebody in the enemy category. And we should be able to disagree with somebody and still get along with them, which is something we used to have in society, but for whatever reason seem to have lost.
Yeah, it needs to be found. If two people are not agreeing on something, talk it out and, still be very nice. I know that just happened recently, a couple days ago in our circle, but I made a comment like, invite them over to sit with us, still, because everybody is going to go through different emotions. And maybe they're just having a bad day, and maybe they just didn't realize what they said and how it hurt somebody else. So, benefit of the doubt. Yeah, definitely. So, try that. Make it something you go forward with in your life and hold that positive energy. So, I agree with that 100%.
Oh, well, you'll be
So,
happier too. I mean, how happy
yeah,
can you really be if you're walking around seeing everybody as the enemy that doesn't believe what you believe? That is not conducive to happiness.
I know. Exactly. Exactly. So, now, you talked about communication and everything. Is just or any other major words that we should be looking at?
Let's see. I think we hit a lot of the big ones. Okay, so I talk a lot about propaganda on my show, and that's a big part of my platform because
Okay.
think of it this way: as a health coach, or if you're talking to anyone about health and trying to change your habits and behaviors, let's say again with food, we're going to say, what's your environment like? What signals is your environment sending you that's been making it so tough to stop eating those snacks? And you might say, well, the snacks are ready available in my house. I can grab them anytime. There's an abundance of the snacks. Every time I go to the grocery store, my first stop is down the snack aisle. So there might be all these different parts of your environment that could be influencing that behavior.
Gotcha.
Now, information is also a big part of our environment. And yet we pay no attention to the information in our environment, many of us. We freely open up our phones and turn on our TVs and just without much thought at all, allow us to be influenced by information in our environment. And here's a perfect example of that everybody can relate to. I go into Target and I tell myself, I want to buy just two things. And then we leave Target with 10 or more things. What happened there? The information in the environment influenced your decision making to change your behavior. That's no accident. There are corporate executives sitting in a room figuring out exactly how they can influence your decision making. They spend millions of dollars and a lot of effort on this. So the question is, why don't we do that to ourselves? Why do we allow ourselves to be pushed around and have our buttons pushed and our strings pulled by corporate executives who just want to take our money instead of changing our own environment and having that awareness so that we can say, hey, this is what I want to accomplish, and here's how I'm going to set up my environment to do it. So, information is huge. Being aware of the information we consume on our phone, which is a part of our environment. If we have our phone there and we're spending a lot of time in there, that is our mental environment, spending time in that digital environment. So, there's a lot to it. I spend a lot of time unpacking this when I talk about it, but
Yeah,
that's the gist of it.
that's good. I feel like you should have a book also out there.
It might be
Any
on the
thoughts of
way.
writing a book? Good, good, good. So, wow, definitely. So, I mean, for people who want to come and hear your show, what are your socials so they can find you?
Yeah, if you search for Healthy and Awake podcast, and it's not the word and, it's the symbol. So Healthy and Symbol Awake podcast. I'm all over. Funny enough, I'm biggest on LinkedIn. And I think because I'm connected with so many doctors, nurses, health coaches, CEOs, things like that. That's a lot of who I talk to. And the platform is geared towards networking, which has been very beneficial for my mission. So I'm on LinkedIn. If you just search for Mike Vera, I'm on there. But my main website is redpillhealthandwellness.com because my business is Red Pill Health and Wellness. But if you don't want to type all that in, you can go to mikevera.com. That's a little shorter.
Definitely. As you're a podcaster like I am on LinkedIn, but I found more through Linktree because I know LinkedIn, and don't get me wrong, love it. When you post your podcast, it's like at the very end, but Linktree is like, what link do you want to share right now? So I put in the podcast, but I'll meet people and be like, you know what? I want you to hear this episode. This is going with what you wanted to tell me. So I'll send it that way, or just send them my website, or if I'm at the doctor's, I want to be on your show. We'll see. That
Yeah.
was one of my doctors. I was like, that's the first time we'll see. But, you know, um, I love that. And then I'm questioning one that I get a lot of feedback from. I just am kind of wary about paying Alignable. Have you used Alignable?
No, I know what you're talking about, though. Every once in a while, I'll get some email saying that somebody wants to invite me to their alignable network, but I don't know enough
Yeah.
about it.
That's how I am. I feel like I need to bring them on the podcast and do a whole show. Why?
Yeah.
Those are one of the things. I mean, for 2024, the marketing and getting it out there. I mean, TikTok, I love Tik. I call that my fallback page. I'll do some videos and I'm my real me. If I feel like singing, I'm gonna have fun. It was Halloween and I look like Chucky and my dog is giving me a kiss. It's just like still those little things. So being real and everything. So podcasts, a possible book. And then as far, do you do like sessions through Zoom or in person? How does that work?
Yeah, I use a platform called Healthy because, as you know, it's a board certified health coach. It has to be HIPAA compliant, and
Yeah.
so if you do go to my website, whether it is redpillhealthandwellness.com or mikevera.com, which is my Linktree page, so it redirects,
Oh,
uh,
okay.
there is an opportunity there for booking a free session where we can talk one on one, and I can see what you're thinking, where you're trying to get to, how we can help get you there.
So I'm going to just ask this from anybody's perspective. When
Mhm.
you go through the coaching with people, has it's HIPAA. Okay, let me rephrase. I mean, we talked about people being depressed about
Yeah.
their health, correct? So when they come out and say, hopefully they're honest with their true self. I'm going through this and this, but I'm depressed. And how am I going to get to this higher state of where I need to be? I mean, is there something like a chart flow or something they can follow to help them?
That's a good question. That is something I have to be very careful about because I am not a medical doctor. I'm not technically a mental health professional. What I do is really focused around habits, behaviors, goals, things like that. So I have to be extremely careful. If I get the idea that somebody is seriously depressed, I have to ask certain questions to make sure that there is no potential for self-harm and things like that. And if so, I have to refer to the 988 line or maybe see
That's what
somebody
I
who,
do.
yeah, who can
Yeah.
deal with this on a more professional level. But at the same time, I don't just shoo them away if that word comes up, right? I'm here to help. So then the
Yeah.
question becomes, all right, so now that we've gotten the disclaimers and stuff out of the way, then we explore it further. And some of that can be
Hmm.
done in a session. Sometimes it could take a few weeks. It really depends on how complex the situation is and how many thoughts there are to unpack. So I hate to give you such a generic
That's all right.
or general answer, but it really is dependent on the situation. But I will say a lot of people who have expressed to me feelings of depression or feeling blue have found that by implementing certain changes, just without necessarily focusing on the depression itself, saying, hey, you know what, I've always had this goal of trying to exercise more. And then they come to me in 2 weeks, even if it's a little tiny goal, and they like, wow,
Yeah.
I was able to get this win.
Yeah.
And then it's the snowball effect that you can keep building on. I find that sometimes a lot of people who are depressed, certainly not everybody, but a lot of people who are depressed just need some forward momentum, and they find that they start to feel a lot better.
Yeah. Something about nature too. Taking those walks and enjoying the peace outside. And I tell my people that listen to the show, journaling is the best. And, doctors, if it's written now, all the symptoms you're finding, they listen a little bit harder, Oh, you actually wrote this out. Yes, I did. Be strong in that way too. But journaling has helped me, and reading it back has helped me. So that was kind of therapeutic for my journey. And, long as you can move on in a positive light and not let the negative hit so much to bring you down, it's a way of changing thought process, and it will probably help your health in the long run too. I had a happiness coach on, and he talked about being happy and building. And he said one thing I never thought of, but with the chronic pain, pretend you're pulling, I don't know what they're called, but the flags, like one, and they're all different colors,
Yeah.
and just release it and let it go. Yeah,
I love
definitely.
that.
That's something. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't
So,
mean to cut you
no,
off.
no, no, go ahead.
That reminds me of another example. This isn't mine. I heard somebody else say this, but kind of like doing math in your head can be stressful. So when it comes to journaling and writing things down, it's externalizing your thoughts. It's getting all those thoughts that are rolling around in your head out onto paper. And that is something worth paying attention to. I know journaling can sound so easy to dismiss. Like, what journaling? I'm going to write things down, especially guys, right? Guys are not as open
Yeah,
to journaling. But when you think of it as like from a cognitive psychology perspective, the more you're holding in your head at the moment, the more stressful it's going to be. You kind of want a
yeah,
clear head in order to not be
yeah.
stressed. And so if you're journaling, it's like instead of doing math in your head, doing math on
Hmm.
paper. And that's so obvious that doing math on paper is less stressful than trying to do
Oh, yeah,
algebra in your head. And so that's, I
yeah,
think, perfectly highlights how much of a stress reliever something like journaling can be.
yeah. And guys, with the journaling, there's sometimes for me, I'll sit back. I do it at nighttime before I go to sleep. I don't want to write in my book today. And then I go, no, we're going to write. And I'll sit there, I'll open the book, and I'm like writing the date. And I'm like, "Well, maybe I did want to write." It's so your brain is like, no, I don't want to. But then you're writing it out. I experienced this. This is what my pain level was. I'll even write, these are my thoughts of what, I had a productive day, I was able to accomplish ABCD. But like around this time, I felt my body get fatigued, and I'm wondering why. Why am I keep getting headaches, So those things, you go and read it back and go, you know what, doc, this is happening. Or if you're going to a health coach, like, hey, this stuff is happening. This is what I noticed out of the month, it's very helpful. And then they can really see what's going on and help you, I guess, in the long run and everything. So, yeah, I feel like we're missing something. I should be asking you so much. But I guess we'll have to listen over on your podcast. And, I thank you for coming on today and sharing all this. I've learned so much from you today. So,
Well, thank you, Nadine. This was a lot of fun.
good, good, good. I'm glad. And I want to thank really quick our other sponsors for Keep Hope Alive. And remember, if you guys have any questions for us, you can always call 833-780-HOPE. And that is 4673. But also, we talked about if you are feeling blue and your thoughts are not accurate and they are negative and you're trying to be heard, 988 is a very safe place, okay? They do not judge you. maybe you don't want to harm yourself, but you just need to be heard. They will listen to you, and just taking that out and handing it over helps the body too. So think of that and keep that number on file if you do need it, 988. But I wanted to thank, as I mentioned, lifeonrecord.com, your interactive guest book for any event. We also have Snap Bands, and their website is www.snapbands.com. That is SNAPPBANDZ. It helps, and I have one on. It helps reduce anxiety, OCD, depression with just a snap of this band. It makes you, it's scientists prove that it will help with cognitive thinking as well. So check them out. You have any mantra to choose from. Mine says hope. Imagine that. Our next one is Ogden Adventures LLC, Marquise Ogden. He's a former NFL player, keynote speaker, best-selling author, and a podcast host. You can check out his information at www.marquise, and that's spelled Marcus. I keep calling him Marquise. I think it's because there's a Q in there. Marcus, MARQUES, last name OGDEN.com. Our next one is Bridal Shows Inc. If you are having a big event in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, they host about 5 trade shows out of the year. You get to go meet the vendors, get their pricing, see a fashion show, all the bridal gowns. I know they had a lot of black dresses this year. I was like, black for weddings? I was like, okay, this is different, but it's very fun to go to. And that's bridalshowsinc.com. Our next one is milesandSmilesEvents.com. Deborah Rose. Her background, she's an investigator, but she does handwriting analysis and also lipstick reading, and she's 100% accurate and can help with any event going in there. So check her out. Next, we have Bryce Harney, www.brycemagic.com. I wonder what he is. He's a magician and a mind mentalist. He's been on TV several times for his magic shows. So if you need a really good magician, check out his information. Our next one is richmondpunch.net. I graduated from the Juilliard. He's a violinist. He's been in the industry for over 30 years. He's performed in front of 1 million people, and that was for a funeral, and had 2 spots on Lifetime shows for the background playing the violin. But he is wonderful at his talent. Our last one is TK Hair Salon in Plano, Texas. So that's www.tkhairsalon.com. Guy, girl, children, haircut, coloring. They do my color. I love it to get out my grays. They also do updos. If you have a special event to go to, check them out. They're super good. And then, of course, wherever you find your podcast, you're going to be able to find Keep Hope Alive. We want to hear your stories. Valentine's Day is right around the corner. I have something special planned also. So it's in the works, and I hope you guys will stay in tune. Once again, Mike, thank you for coming on the show. And
Thank you.
I told them before, I love the background. Only if that was like really real. That tree is beautiful. I know. Well, until next time, guys, love and light. Bye bye.
Peace.